There's good and bad to that. The good thing is, well, the bad is I'm getting old. The good is I get to spend it in New York with friends. That was kind of nice. So I get to go home to my West Coast party later. But yeah, just turned 50. And I was going to do like the 50 tips for starting a photography business. It was just too many. But I would have forgotten them. But I'm laughing at Deborah's intro because she talked about linearity. If you've watched any of my presentations, there's no linearity at all. I'm like a little bit out there, a little, what do you call it? ADHD, ADD, one of those acronyms. But I wanted to do a presentation. I did the 15 features of Photoshop every photographer should know. And we did the 15 features of the DSLR that every photographer should know. And so we were talking about what should be next. And I thought, everybody asks me, I get a lot of emails and Facebook messages, people saying, how do you start a business? So I thought what I'd do is spend the time with you guys to go through some of the lessons I've learned, some of the do's and don'ts, to help you start a photography business, a successful one. I've been doing it now for about almost 9 years, about eight and a half years. And through trial and error, you learn the things that work and what they don't work. So without further ado, we'll kind of move forward. So before I start, because I used to put this at the end and now have it in both places. But if you do want to get a hold of me, my website is jeffcable.com, and my Facebook page is just Jeff Cable Photography. And my blog, which is linked from my website, is jeffcable.blogspot.com. I tend to blog every week. How many people here read the blog? Cool. I try to blog every week, and when I do blog, I talk about how I shot it, why I shot it, what settings I used, to try to help inspire people, because I love photography. It's a passion, which actually is my first point in here, talks about why, how do you become successful in the photography business? And this is really, really important, which is why it's the first slide, is you have to love what you're doing. And so I've seen photographers that are in business full-time doing this, and they walk around like they really just don't care anymore. They've been doing it for 30 years or whatever, and they're just kind of bored doing it. And if that's the case, they shouldn't be in the business, because photography is art, as I talked about in the last point here. It's not a business. I mean, yes, it's a business and it makes us money, but you have to have passion for what you're doing, right? So for one, you have to give your all. And typically when I'm shooting, the one thing I get from people a lot is, wow, I mean, you work your butt off. And I do. When I'm shooting, I am everywhere. I'm looking around me, looking for those key moments, not just what's in front of me. And if it's the wedding, sure, you're going to be looking for the kiss and putting the ring on and all that, but what's going on around you? So those are the things that you want to look for, and so your brain's got to be going all the time, but physically, you have to be willing to walk a lot. I carry a Fitbit. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Fitbit. It's a little device that tells you how much you're walking. So this week, since Tuesday, I brought my brother here with me to help me celebrate my birthday, and we walked 62 miles since Tuesday, so my legs were a little tired. But we walk everywhere. And so I try to keep in shape, and part of that too is for shooting the Olympics, because you're moving a lot. So you need to physically be willing to do that and mentally be in the game. And the thing is, the passion isn't just for the photography, the passion needs to be in all parts of the business. So when a client calls you up, if you answer the phone and go, yeah, and they ask you questions like, yeah, I guess we could do that, right? I mean, I try to have passion in everything I do, and I talk to them, and they tell me, oh, we're going to do a bat mitzvah, and we're thinking about doing it at the aquarium. I'm like, oh, cool, I want to shoot this, because I'm thinking somewhere new and cool and different and fun to shoot. And I let the family know that, and they can tell that you have energy. And again, I think that is really important, and that's true of probably any business, not just photography. Maybe it's magnified a bit in this business. But you want to love what you're doing. And the thing is, in photography, you do tend to, as Rick Salmon says, the camera sees both ways. If you have passion and you're having a good time, guess what you get back? You get those photos of people that also are having a good time. If you walk up to a kid and you smile, what are you going to get back? You're not going to get you're going to get So have fun with them. And again, the families tend to feed off. If you're shooting an event with the families, they tend to feed off of it. Now, there are other events you can shoot, which we'll talk a little bit, like the Olympics. Trust me, there's no way that someone like Shaun White, when he's doing the half pipe, is going to be worried about what my attitude is. But my images still will show how much I put forth into it. It is better for you and for your clients. And like I said, and I've said this before in other presentations, I get hired a lot because of my photography, but I also get hired a lot because of who I am as a person. I do have fun, I'm crazy, and I like to have a good time, and when I'm out there, and we'll talk about that, I'm having a good time with the family. And as I mentioned before, photography is an art. So I mean, it is a business, but it's an art. So when you're doing this, you have to remember that and think that way. So this is a wedding. I just photographed this wedding in North Carolina 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they were friends actually with the groom's family. And so we flew out on Wednesday night, and we spent Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with them. So we had plenty of time. And we told them, look, if you'd like some shots of the couple prior to the wedding, some engagement type shots, whatever, couple shots, we'll do those. Well, we went out, and we only had 1 hour on Thursday to do it. And so we went out and started shooting. And we got some really nice shots of them together. And we could have just stopped. Could have said, we got them. And they even said that, okay, we're good, we got some good shots. I said, hey, let's keep going. Let's do a little more. So the next night, we went out to dinner with their families. They were kind enough to invite us. And there was these 2 Adirondack chairs on the point at the lake. And I said, oh, we got to get a shot of there. So we walked all the way out to this point while everybody was waiting, having wine or whatever. And we walked out there and did some shots because I just couldn't help it. I wanted more. And then we went and found, the next day, we were with them. And I saw this barn area, and they had this cool fence. And I just asked the couple, I say, you could tell we're all casual, but I said, lean over that fence. And I just kept going, and we just had so much fun. And they're a great couple and good looking, but it was just fun. We had a great time. And so that's kind of the passion that's on my side that's coming through. And I'll turn the camera around. And by the way, I didn't put that in the presentation, but turn the camera around and show them what you're getting. Because if you have people that you're shooting for and they're hesitant, as soon as you turn the camera around and show them what you're getting and it's good, they'll relax. And then you'll have that trust, and then you're good. So that was where I was going to stop on this whole thing about passion. And then 2 nights ago, I shot this here at the Flatiron building. And I walked, as I said, we had walked 16 miles that day. And I told my brother, I'd never actually photographed the Flatiron building. So I said, let's walk back. And he's looking at me like, are you nuts? So we got we went back to the hotel, got my tripod and gear, and we hoofed back there to shoot this one shot. And why did I do it? It's not because I'm gonna make money with it or anything else. It's just because I wanted that shot. And then, yesterday, someone we met on the Moose Cruise told me to go to 5 Points. Anybody here been to 5 Points? So 5 Points here in New York is known for graffiti. So I've done blogs showing graffiti in San Francisco and graffiti in Toronto. And this guy goes, well, you got to shoot graffiti at 5 Points. So we walked from Times Square over to Long Island City in Queens. That was a hoof. And I told my brothers, I have no idea what we're going to see when we get there. It could be just an ugly wall, and we turn around, but it was a good walk. Well, we get there, and there was really cool graffiti. And so I started going crazy, just shooting. And I saw this black cat there, and grabbed that shot with the graffiti behind him, which was cool. And then we started hearing crowds and music, like rap music. And I'm like, what is going on here? So we walked around the corner, and there was one of these battles where they're rapping and dancing and stuff. Now, let me just tell you, totally out of the element for me. I don't hang out with a bunch of rappers. Typically, but I was like, my brother and I spent more time together in the last 5 days than we have since we were kids. And he looked at me like I was insane, because I just kept walking around going, this is awesome, oh my God. And I mean, it was just so cool to be in a totally different environment. And literally, I was like a child at Christmas, just with the backgrounds and the dancing. So I snuck my way up. If you look here on the right-hand side, you can barely see there's a garbage dumpster. So I climbed up on the dumpster, which I don't typically do in New York City. I climbed up and started shooting these images of these guys, and they were like taunting each other and dancing. It was really cool. Why did I do all this? Am I getting paid? Am I going to send it to the newspaper? No, I'm doing this because I love photography. And I love the passion of getting the look on that guy's face is so cool. And for those of you who do this, you know what I'm talking about. How many people here have a money shot? Not too many. Wait till you get it. Because there's no better feeling in the world than getting a shot and going, oh, God, I love that. I mean, I went back to my computer that night. It was like 1 in the morning, and I'm flying through these going, oh yeah, oh yeah. And again, it's just for me. That's passion. So, first thing, and this is an important one, know how to shoot. I have a lot of people who email me and they say, I want to become a photographer, or I am a photographer. What do you think of my work? Some of it is okay. Some of it is not okay. Some of the stuff I'll look at is very what we call point and shoot type of a shot, where everything's in focus, the lighting's not very good, there's nothing creative about it. So the first thing you want to do is know how to shoot. So know your camera and know your settings. And the thing is, you have to know them well enough that you can, in any environment, take a good photo. So do I shoot rap photos or the dancing like that all the time? No. But when I showed up there, I looked at the situation. I said, okay, I want to have the crowd in focus. I want to have the dancers in focus. I'll probably be about an f8. Well, my shutter speed's a little low. Let me crank up the ISO a little bit more. But that's all inherent. I do it all the time. So you want to know, if you walk into a dark room like this, how am I going to shoot it? Am I going to bounce a flash this way? Am I going to diffuse a flash? Am I not going to use a flash? If I'm just photographing you guys in the front row, I probably don't need a flash, a little bit of light here. If I'm trying to photograph back there, then I will. Or if I'm trying to do the entire group and we have very different light here than there, then we have an issue. How do I deal with that? So if you're going to call yourself a professional photographer and start commanding good money for it, you want to know how to do those things. And it's not hard, it's just practice. So understanding light is very, very important to photography, right? So knowing how to assess a situation is important, and knowing when to use flash, when not to use flash, and I'll show you some examples of that. It's funny, learning how to find good locations is something that's very important to me, and I think very overlooked by new photographers. So I'll see people say to me, look at this shot. So I got a shot of that black cat on a pole, and there was a fence behind it, and it's just like, ugh, that just didn't work. Well, the cat jumped onto this other thing, and there was graffiti behind him, and that's when I did the shot. So I did a couple of the cat on the pole, just to do them, but I knew it wasn't going to be what I wanted. I waited for the cat to move, and then I kind of just like went, try to make some noise, would look at me, and then took it. But I'm always thinking about what is my background. So if you're taking a portrait of someone and there's a garbage can behind them, move them, right? Unless it's a garbage man and that's part of the story, then I guess that'd be different. But be cognizant of your backgrounds and your foregrounds. So the picture of the Flatiron Building wasn't just the Flatiron Building. I knew what I wanted. I wanted cars streaking with long exposure in front of it, and I moved to a location where the cars were going this direction and this direction, so I was able to get streaks going both ways, which drew your eye to the Flatiron Building. So I'm thinking all this through as I'm going. And again, we literally showed up about 5 minutes before the perfect time to shoot. So I had very little time to find that spot, but earlier in the day when we had passed the building, I went and looked, okay, this could be good, that could be good. So in my mind, was pre-thinking through where I might take that photo. And so that goes back to being able to shoot in all environments. And trust me, professional photographer, if you're really a pro, you need to be able to shoot in all environments. And that means really dark, really light, large groups, small groups, portraits, action, whatever. And and that's part of the fun. Honestly, for me as a photographer, if I shot the same thing all the time, I'd be bored. I like shooting something different. I like it when someone says to me, have you ever photographed in this venue before? And I say, no. And then the family goes, oh, darn. We really want someone who shot there before. And I tell them, a good photographer can walk into any room or environment and within 15 seconds or less, have it figured out. And that comes with experience. Know about your event. And this is very important. If it's sports, and I've talked about this in the past, when I shoot for USA Water Polo at the London Olympics, I don't play water polo, didn't really know the sport. I learned the sport for a year to be able to predict the play. Same thing. So I play ice hockey when I shoot in Russia coming up for the Winter Olympics. I don't have to worry about that. I know if that puck goes this way, the player's going to go that way. If a guy's taking a slop shot, I'm going to go for the bend of the stick. If it's a big check and it's not even by the puck, and this guy's known for hitting, which you see less of that in the Olympics, but I'll key in on that person. So I learned to predict the play, and the same thing is true. Wedding, right? Key moments, the kiss and the ring and so forth. Bar mitzvah, the kid up in the chair, or taking the Torah out. So I'm always thinking about those key moments as I'm going through. And by the way, when I say know them and predict them, predicting is the hard part. So let's take a bar mitzvah. I'm shooting from the back of the temple, which is where I'm allowed to shoot, no flash. And I'm shooting a bunch of shots the first 45 minutes. And I know that within the next 10 or 15 minutes, that kid's going to be taking the Torah, which is a big deal, holding it and walking toward me, right? So I predict that. I have a long lens, maybe a 70-200 or maybe an 85-1.4 on a camera. I have it in servo focus with the focal point at the top, so it's right at their eyes. And my ISO's cranked up to maybe even 3200 depending on the environment I'm in. So I have a shutter speed of at least 200th of a second. And as soon as that kid grabs the Torah, I'm not panicking because I'm already done. I just stop with the camera on the tripod, I grab the other camera, I move out, I get ready, and I fire off. And it's in burst mode, so I'm shooting maybe in silent mode. One of the great things about the Canon 5D Mark III is it has a silent mode. Love that, because you don't even hear it. So they're coming at me, and it's a big moment, and you don't hear this bam, 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 bam. You just hear, and it's great. But I have all the settings done in that camera. As soon as that kid walks by me, that's over. I take the camera and I put it back into a fixed focus mode so I don't mess up later when I'm shooting the luncheon. I change all the settings right back, put the camera back down again, predicting what's going to happen later, and keep moving. Okay. So here, this is a recent bat mitzvah that I did, and the family had told me in advance. This was a first. They go, "We have about 100 people. We'd like to have a photo." Okay. Which, as a photographer, you're like, "Oh, great." So I had photographed in this temple before, and I said the only way we're going to be able to do this is if I'm looking down from the bima, and you guys are all down here in the by all the chairs, or you have to come up because there's steps up there. So I looked down, I saw the mishmash of people, and no one was organized. I'm like, this isn't going to work. So I quickly said, okay, everybody up and get on the stairs, and we quickly put together everybody into this shot and did it. Now, there's a couple things happening here that I had to predict. One was, where was I going to put them? Two, how am I going to shoot it? If I shot it at f2.8, then wherever I'm focusing, let's say the people in the front, like dad and mom and those guys, well, they'd be in focus, but everybody in the back would be completely out of focus, right? So I got to shoot this at like maybe f8. I knew that, and probably focus on the bat mitzvah girl who's right in the middle, and that would give me then a middle focus so I can have some leniency both forward and backward. But I also knew that my lighting, the people closer to me will probably be brighter, maybe one stop brighter than the people behind me. But I don't care, because I'll fix it in Photoshop, and that's what I did. So they're a little bit darker in the back. I just brightened them up in Photoshop, and everything is fine. But this is one of those moments where if you don't know what you're doing, you could start sweating profusely. Same thing happened at the wedding that we just shot in North Carolina. They said they wanted a group shot. I had gone to the venue and looked at it the day before, and we saw that there was these stairs that went up to this barn, this like rafter in the barn. So I went up there and said, well, that's probably where we're going to do this. So I didn't panic. They said, when the group shot, I said, everybody come right here. And I really looked to see where they could stop standing, because I really was trying to avoid the door that went upstairs there on the left as much as I could. So I tried to cram everybody in where I wanted them and fire off my shots. And I also knew I needed additional light. So I had one flash on my camera. My wife, who was assisting me, was standing about 3 feet to my left with another flash. So I used the Canon 600EX RTs, which have wireless communications between them. So I had her hold one up. So I had two flashes going to help light up my crowd. This was a tricky one. The family had told me weeks before the wedding that the exit from the wedding, the big exit was sparklers. Now, I don't do a lot of photography with sparklers. So this is kind of an interesting story. I was freaking out a little bit because I really wanted this shot for them and for me, because I really thought it'd be cool. But the question is, how do you meter that? Because if she's in a white dress and I want to get her, but I don't want to make it so bright that you don't see the sparklers, right? So it was a challenge to shoot. So what I did was I had him in servo focus with them coming toward me. He was nice enough to stop and give her a dip right there. And what I did is I was shooting 2 stops down, so I was very dark in the camera. I knew that I could pull the bride and groom later in Photoshop, which is what I did to brighten them up a little bit. The funny story here was I'm allergic to crab, and when we were shooting after the wedding, before the reception started, we hadn't eaten, so the father of the groom, who's my friend, brought us a bunch of deviled eggs, so I was eating them. And about an hour later, my wife goes, you know there's a crab in them, right? So I got really sick during the wedding. But again, going back to being passionate about what I did, I just like fought through it. I shot the entire thing till midnight and then went home and died. But so I was not feeling good at this point, but I wanted this shot so bad for the family. So, and this is, I gotta be honest, this was one that was really tricky, and I was dialing things while shooting. So as they're moving, I'm like looking, I shot a bunch, nope. And it was cool because I had the dad who came through before them. It was like a test subject. So I was able to look, oh, that's too bright, and just kick it down and make, but again, I'm talking like multiple second reaction. This is a shot that has nothing to do with events, but I put this in there because I took this in my backyard, and a lot of people commented like, how did you get that? And again, this is something where when you know how to adjust your camera and you know your settings, you can do this. This is actually taken before nighttime. So if you wait till nighttime to take a picture of the moon is going to be super bright. Your sky is completely black. And of course, you won't see trees or anything because they're black. So you'll have an overexposed moon. So the best time to picture the moon is when it's not quite dark yet. So it was probably about half hour, maybe 25 minutes before it actually got dark. And what I did was I just underexposed in the camera so that my moon was exposed correctly, but I could still see the trees in the backyard. And again, this is another example of knowing before I even took it, when to shoot it and how to shoot it. And if it freaks you out, when me saying all these things, it comes with time. Doing photography is like speaking a foreign language. If you don't do it all the time, it'll take longer. If you do it a lot and you immerse yourself in it, it'll come. So don't panic if you can't do this. Sorry? Oh, what lens? I don't even remember. Probably, this was probably a 100 to 400 lens. Yeah, something like that. Okay, focus on what you know, pun intended. Know what you're good at and know what you're not good at. And this is really important when you're starting a photography business because you will get people that will call you up and say, I'd like you to do blank. And you go, oh, I don't do blank. There's nothing wrong with saying, I don't shoot that. I have people that call me and they'll say, I would like you to photograph studio shots that are doing like boudoir. I don't do boudoir. I don't really know. I've shot pregnancy pictures for friends, but it's not what I do regularly. I'm not as good as other people at that. If you want me to shoot a wedding or a bar mitzvah or a sporting event, no problem. I'm very comfortable there. I don't do a lot of studio shooting. So if people want that, I just tell them, you know what, that's not what I do. Unless I want to sit there and study it, which I've done, to try it. But you'll see that my third point is don't use a paying client as a test. So if you tell someone, I'd be more than happy to shoot it for you. I'm not going to charge you because I'm trying to learn this. That works great. And that's what I use on my relatives. So a couple of my nieces are pregnant or whatever, and actually I've got one of my nieces is pregnant now. She wants maternity pictures. Come on over, we'll do them. I mean, I can experiment with her. But if someone says, hey, I'll pay you $1,000, honestly, I'm not confident enough that I could do that. So it's okay. So know what you're good at, know what you're not good at. So for me, if someone asks me I don't have to building reputation and expertise, I'll get to in a second. You do want to do that. You want to build a specialty. In my case, it happened by mistake. 8.5 years ago, a friend asked me to shoot their kid's bat mitzvah. I did it. Their friends asked me to do theirs and it just snowballed and took over. So I'm really good at doing bar and bat mitzvahs. And so I know all the temples in the area. I knew when I shot this one, which is a temple very close to my house, that I could bounce the flash off the left wall about 60 feet away. It would come back at her face, light just half of her face, which gives it dimension. And I shot this with the 24 to 70 2.8 Canon lens, I believe. And at 2.8, her eyes are perfectly in focus. And you talk about passion. I printed this and framed it and brought it to the family that evening of the party. And I was so excited about it that I think they kind of questioned my sanity. So I'm like, look at this. Look at this. And they're like, oh, it's nice. No. Look at it. Really, it's really, really nice. I mean, you don't get that look. She just lit up in front of the camera. It is, and part of it as a photographer, but honestly, part of it is just this kid was just awesome. Great smile. She wasn't shy. She was having fun up there. But I mean, just photographically and lighting-wise, everything just worked. It doesn't happen all the time. I will tell you as a photographer, a typical shoot that I do like this, typical bar mitzvah, I might end up with one portfolio shot that I really like. I may end up with none. Sometimes I'll end up with 10, just depends. Sometimes it's lucky, sometimes it's the environment and the lighting, the kid, whatever. There's lots of things that go into it. But I was really, really excited about the shot because it just, to me, it just is ideal. This one here, another group shot. This is a bar mitzvah for this kid. And again, it was very different lighting because they had a lit floor. I'd never done that before. They had painted backdrops in the background. And yeah, it was just fun to do. But I know how to do it. I mean, I do this all the time. When it comes to sports, again, I shoot for Team USA at the Olympics. I know how to shoot sports. And now the thing is, typically, when you learn how to shoot something like sports, you can shoot almost any sport. Now, there's caveats to that. I shot gymnastics at the Olympics. Whew, that is hard to shoot. When they're on the uneven bars, the girls, and they're going from this height to this height, from here, this plane to this plane, and back. And I was like, it's hard. I would have to practice that before. If I were to shoot for USA Gymnastics, I'd have to spend a lot of time in the gym to practice that. But for something like this, I practiced for about 1.5 years shooting water polo to get those shots. That wasn't me. I did shoot the US Gymnastics trials, and I did like the balance beam. I found it easier to shoot than some of the other things. But sometimes you do get lucky as well. This one here, I got the perfect arc over the bar. Part of it was I'm using a 1DX, which shoots 12 frames a second, so some of it's cheating, because we call it spray and pray. You're just like, and you hope to God you're right at the top. But that shot, and again, I thought this through as I was shooting it. I want her in focus. I want US Olympic trials in the background, but I don't want it perfectly in focus, because then the eye won't be drawn to her. So I was thinking that through as I was shooting it. So going back for a second, shooting bar mitzvahs, weddings, sports, no problem. I'll say yes to those. Other stuff, maybe not. Okay, here comes the big one. And I get this all the time, including from you, when you say, what lens did you use? I cheat. I have a lot of gear. But you don't have to have tons of gear. And I'll get to that in a second. You don't have to have it all. Here's my gear list. Now you have to remember, I've been doing this for 9 years. Okay, so it's not like I went out one day and said, I'm going to start a photo business. I'm going to write a check for $30,000. Right? I started with a Canon, started originally with like a 30D or a 40D, and the first good lens I ever bought was the Canon 70-200, 2.8 IS. That was an investment. That was a couple $1,000. Best investment I ever made. But it was a lot of money at the time. I had to tell my wife, don't worry, I'm going to shoot a couple events, it'll pay for it, I promise. So that's my list now. You'll see the important stuff here. I do shoot Canon. I do shoot all Lexar cards, of course. And this is the new, this is the Lexar Professional Workflow Reader Solutions, brand new, just came out a couple weeks ago. This thing is probably one of my most exciting products that Lexar's had in, to me, years. This is a interchangeable reader. You can interchange whatever readers you want into this hub, and it reads concurrently. So when I shoot an event, like let's take a bar mitzvah, and I shoot across 4 cards during the day, I come home, I put all 4 cards, because I've switched mine out to all compact flash. I put 4 cards in, and I'm moving 50 gig per minute. That means I'm done downloading in like 5 minutes or less. And then I can go to bed, because like 1 or 2 in the morning, I'm tired. This thing, and for the Olympics, I can't wait for this. This is going to be a game changer. And it's not expensive. The reader's like $39, and the hub is $79, I think it is. So it's not crazy expensive. Cool product. But I will tell you, so this is the list. And this is the scary list where you're looking at me going, yeah, but that's not realistic. Here's realistic. Okay? And this is what I recommend if you want to start. Now, granted, I'm talking about specific camera models and lenses. If you're a Nikon shooter or Sony or whatever, this still translates. But a reasonably good, newer SLR camera. And the reason for that is the newer SLR cameras will give you the ability to shoot in low light with not a lot of digital noise, which to me is the holy grail. I don't really care how many megapixels I'm shooting. When I shoot a wedding or bar mitzvah, the service, I'm shooting it raw. When I shoot the reception, it's usually on Canon what's called an S-RAW, which is like half RAW, 11 megapixels. That's all I need. So I don't care about megapixels, I care about the quality of the image in low light. So I like the Canon 5D Mark III. The lenses I have listed there, I'll tell you why I have those. The 70-200 2.8 is the bomb. It is the best portrait lens, and this is true for Nikon or Canon. It is the best portrait lens you can get. And I will tell you that almost every portrait I take, even group shots, unless it's that group shot with 100, is with that lens. So family portraits, I'll just stand back farther and shoot. I love that lens. 70 to 200, 2.8. In this case, it's the IS-2. I also have the original Canon 70-200 IS, and they're both excellent lenses. If you have the original one, I honestly don't think it's worth the money to upgrade to the second one. I needed a backup, so I have two, but they're both excellent lenses. The 24-105 is what I used this whole week that I was here. It's a great walk-around lens because it gives you a good wide shot and gives you the ability to zoom. So if I'm shooting a party, I like this lens because it lets me do a wide shot of 10 people, or I can just get a shot of 1 or 2 people. I just recently switched to the 24-70 2.8 lens, and it's even sharper, and it lets me go to 2.8. This one on Canon is an f4 lens, but again, I'm getting eye shot, hundreds of events with a 24-105, and it works fine. Okay? The 16-35, depending on what you're shooting, you may or may not want. If you're doing that big group shot, it's nice to have a wide lens like that. If you're doing a hora with the kids up in the chair, or it's a wedding and they have people up in the chair, and you're shooting it, I like shooting close to them with a wide angle lens. So I'd use it. But if you can't afford a 16-35, stand back farther and shoot it from farther back. It's doable. The 50-1.4, I've said this before, is probably the best value of any lens by Canon and Nikon. I think it's like a $300 lens or $399 or something like that. And it's phenomenal for the money because it lets you shoot at 1.4. You get great separation, great depth of field options. You can roll it to 1.4, you can roll it to f11, whatever you want. And it's not expensive. So if you want a lens that lets you shoot at a really wide aperture like that, $350. The extender, I don't use an extender very often. I put it on there, but if someone wants to shoot sports and 200 millimeters on their 70-200 isn't enough, you can get a 1.4 adapter on there, throw it on there, and get equivalent to 300 millimeters. It's the cheap way to get there, and it works. The flashes, I'm very much against any flash that goes on your camera that doesn't swivel. So anybody who emails me and says, how about this flash, because it's cheap, I'm like, but it doesn't swivel, what's the point? Because really, most of the time I shoot, I don't point a flash ever at the person. I'm honestly, like that picture of that girl, I was bouncing off the wall over here and coming back at her. So any flash that swivels is great. The reason I love the Canon 600 EX RT is that it has the wireless built in, and I love that ability. And I'll show you a photo I took using 3 of those flashes. I do use a Gitzo tripod. Again, doesn't have to be Gitzo. I like the Gitzo tripods because I travel with one. There's actually one in this suitcase that folds down that small, and that's what I travel with. I like lightweight, and I like really sturdy, very good tripods. But again, you can go Manfrotto, which is cheaper, or whatever. There's some different ones out there. And if you're just starting and all you can afford is a $100 tripod, great. Start with that, earn some money, and then upgrade later. Just don't get a really flimsy one because you'll hate yourself. And of course, I use 1000X Lexar cards. This happens to be a less expensive option, which is the 800X cards. They're a lot less expensive than the top of the line ones, and they work fine. They won't clear the buffer as fast, but most people aren't filling their buffer when you're shooting events, unless you're shooting sports. And of course, this is a point I want to make. I put in here Lexar card reader. Part of it is, of course, I'm in Lexar, but the card reader is very important. Don't use a no-name brand reader. We see more card corruption from bad readers than we do cameras. Well, people will take their card out of a good camera, put it in some cheap reader they got from China or wherever, no name. They put it in there and it corrupts their images or fries their card. So readers are cheap. They're like 30-something bucks. So get a name brand reader, preferably Lexar, but it does make a difference. They actually have intelligence inside that readers that can make or break you. So, all right. So going back for a second, you can go from that to that and really just the stuff in red and still be okay. One thing I forgot to mention is you'll see under flash I put and backup. If you want to do events, it's a good idea to have a backup camera and a backup flash. To a certain extent a backup lens, but hopefully you won't drop your lens. But it is nice to have backup options. So do you have to go buy 2 5D Mark IIIs? No. You could do a 5D Mark III and either rent one, or if you have an old 30D laying around, fine. Just have it there, have it handy. If you have one flash and it blows, have a second one. My second photographer who I work with, she shoots me a lot. She sent me a text message. She just shot a bar mitzvah on Saturday. One of her cameras just failed. She can't get it to work. So she had her second one. She's fine. You don't want to be in a situation where you have one and it doesn't work. Trust me. So the camera is just a tool. It's an important one, but it's still a tool. To me, the worst thing to hear out of a client's mouth is, wow, that is a great photo. Your camera is awesome. I hate that. And there's all kinds of analogies like, do you tell Van Gogh, that's a great painting, your brushes and paints are amazing? Or do you walk into a restaurant and say, oh my God, that steak and that meal was fantastic. What pots and pans do you use? Right? It's an insult. They don't know they're insulting you, right? That's just what they think. So you have to then say to them, you know, Ansel Adams said that the most important feature of the cameras was 12 inches behind the camera, right? And so one of the reasons I like to blog is to help people out with, like you guys, to explain how I'm shooting something, why I shot it, what settings are in. But it also tells the family, if I'm blogging about an event, that there's actually something between these two ears, and it's working. And I will tell you that when I get done shooting, I'm mentally and physically gone, like drained. And I sleep really good that night. Because you've got to be thinking all the time. And so use the camera as a tool, but know how to use it, but also use this tool too, okay? So having a good camera helps, but it doesn't make you a good photographer. And I've seen some amazing pictures taken with an iPhone. Okay, I've seen great pictures taken with a point and shoot camera. So the camera does not make you the photographer, it'll help you, it's a tool, but it won't get you there all the way. And I see this at trade shows when people say, what camera do you use? And I say, oh, I used a 1DX. And they're, well, so if I go spend $10,000, I don't know, maybe you'll be as good, I don't know. But I practice doing this. Have the proper lenses for what you're shooting, and we kind of just talked about that, but it does help to have the proper lenses. Because nothing worse than someone saying, I'd like a shot with 100 people, and all you have is a 7200. Better be walking way back. Have plenty of memory cards, and honestly, I put them in there because memory cards are cheap now. You can go buy a memory card for 30 bucks. So, like, I shot, just having fun, walking around New York City for the last couple of days, I shot 40 gigabytes of keepers. That's deleting the stuff I didn't like. And I keep a 128 gig card in here, and I just keep shooting on one card the entire time. Now, the 128's a little bit more expensive. But you can do a 32 gig, which I think is the sweet spot. Most people don't need 128 or even 64 gig. 32 is, I think, the right amount. What you don't want to do is go to an event with a 4 gig. I've made that mistake before. Introducing the new couple, Mr. and Mrs. blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and I realized I was out of memory. Luckily, my backup shooter's there, and she got it. But yeah, not a good feeling. So I shoot to 128 now, and I never run out. And I have tons of headroom. But I'd rather have lots of headroom and not worry about it. Use a reasonably new computer and reader. And this is where, this is a tough one because it's another investment. So now we're talking about cameras, lenses, and a computer. But I will say that if you want to get reasonable editing done, it's nice to have a faster computer. So I tend to use, I'm a Mac guy, so I use an older Mac Pro tower, but I've got it decked out with a solid state drive and extra memory, and it works pretty good. I'm going to get the new Mac Pro the day it comes out, because I really, 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 really want it. Because I think it'll make my workflow faster, which is, I think the last slide talks about being smart in business. Oh, backups. How many people here backup religiously? 1/3 the room. Be scared, everybody. Be scared. If you're shooting your own family and taking pictures and you don't care about your photos, you shouldn't be in this room. But if you don't care about your photos, then don't worry about it. But if you care about what you're shooting or you're charging a client for it, back up. And don't just back up on your home machine, back up somewhere else on a remote hard drive that you back up and take it somewhere else, or use one of those services like Carbonite or whatever and put them somewhere else. And the reason is, God forbid your computer crashes or you have a fire at your house and you don't want to lose everything. So I have multiple 4 terabyte drives now off-site, about 30 miles from my house, that are there with all of my images, and I update those every couple of months. Pretty religiously, and I back up 3 times at home before I go to bed. So I use Drobos for backing up. I also have some Western Digital hard drives, and I have my own the hard drive of the computer. So it's on 3 places before I go to sleep. Then I can go to sleep and sleep sound. Otherwise, I'm not very happy. Even at the wedding in North Carolina, I brought this Mac. I brought 2 passport drives, the small hard drives, and backed up to those. And when I went home, one was in the suitcase, one was in this bag, and one was in my wife's bag. And all my best images were on Dropbox, on the internet, on the cloud. So I'm really kind of very detail-oriented when it comes to that, because you need to be if you're charging people money. Oh, speaking of which, insurance. Often overlooked, but something you need. I have insurance on my equipment, foremost. And the interesting thing about that is different insurance, there's different types of insurance for equipment. I found out on one of my trips to the Olympics that my insurance didn't cover international. Whoops. I was okay, I didn't lose anything. I also found out that the most they pay for coverage per item is $2,500. That doesn't work if you have 2 Canon 1DXs with you at $7,000 each, and they don't belong to you. One of them belongs to Canon. So you want to make sure that your equipment covers, or your equipment's covered, and general liability. And this is important too, because if you're shooting an event and a kid goes by and walks and trips over your tripod or your camera bag and they break their arm, you might be liable. So you want to have good general liability. I will tell you that I believe my insurance for my equipment and my liability and everything is like $500 a year. It's not crazy expensive. If you have a studio, you probably want to insure that property. There actually is insurance for your automobile that's above and beyond your standard personal auto insurance. There's lots of different options. But here's the key. A lot of venues require proof of insurance, a certificate. So I have numerous temples I shoot for, and they say, we need your certificate of insurance before they'll even let you shoot. I keep telling them, you have it. Like every family calls me, we need one. I go, trust me, they have 10 of them over there. But they do want them. Differentiate yourself. This is a tough one because there's a lot of people out there that want to become photographers. There's a lot of people enamored with it, to think it's like this glamorous, great job. And guess what? It is. It's a ton of work, but it's a lot of fun too. And in the case of for me, I get to go to the Olympics, and I get to go to everybody's parties. How cool is that? Generally, very happy events. But there's lots of competition that want to get involved. So you have to be unique. How am I unique? Well, I'll show you in a second. I mean, for one, I shoot the Olympics. That makes me unique. Now, does that make me a great photographer? No, but in the eyes of my clients, they love saying, our photographer is a 4-time Olympic photographer, right? Sometimes they'll even like showcase me. This is Jeff, he's our photographer, and he did the Olympics. And they like that. And that's cool, that works for me. I mean, it's fun to do this, and it's nice to have a reputation. So that's one of the things I do to differentiate, but I differentiate more by how I run my business. By working my butt off, never missing a shot looking everywhere for shots. And having fun with the clients, which I'll talk about in a minute. Even the way I shoot. I'll shoot stuff that most people wouldn't shoot, in ways that most people wouldn't shoot it. I'll lay on the ground, I'll go up high, I'll even dance sometimes with the kids while I'm shooting them, which is always fun. So I have my own little uniqueness, as you can tell. My wife has to live with this. But I own my own look. Everybody has their own style, and I have people that will email me and say, what do you think of my work? And I look and I go, it's not my style. But I write back and say, that's not my style, but your stuff is good. How many people here have looked at a photo magazine and seen the winner and thought, oh, I'd delete that? I have. No, I'm serious. I saw a winner of a very prestigious magazine. I looked at it and thought, I would have deleted it. I don't get it, right? Different styles. So own your own style. Don't have to be like everybody else. And have a USP, unique selling proposition. What makes you different from everybody else? This is a good marketing term. The USP, like every product, what makes Apple products really good? Well, the unique selling proposition of an iPhone is it just feels good, it works, operating system's good, hardware is good, it all works together, whatever. Every product has its own USP. You need one too. So my unique selling proposition is that I'm nuts. Did I do the Olympics? So this is a shot I did in London, shot for the gold medal team. This is me at the water polo facility. So again, that differentiates me from everybody else because there aren't that many Olympic photographers out there. So I use that to my advantage. Having the right attitude. As I mentioned before, I have fun when I shoot. And believe it or not, even at the Olympics, as much work as it is, we work in like 8 in the morning till 2 in the morning every day, I'm still having fun. Because I know how lucky I am to be there. So I just kind of embrace that. So here's me shooting a bar mitzvah not too long ago with mom. This is mom. I did their other kids. I've done a couple of their kids. And my backup shooter's there, and she shot this. You can tell I'm having fun. I did not drink, I swear to you. Although I've even had a drink. If I really know the family well, and then toward the end of the evening, they say, hey, have a margarita. I'm like, okay. And my joke is, I got autofocus, we're all good. This is me showing the kids, back of the camera. As I mentioned, there's nothing better than getting them to trust you by just turning around and going, check this one out. I love this. This is my daughter. So my daughter said to me, I want to make some extra, she wants extra money. Daddy, she plays field hockey. I want a new field hockey stick. I go, you got to earn it. She goes, I'll second shoot. I said, you're on. So I took her with me, and she shot with me. And I had a remote flash set up. I said, move right here and we'll hairlight you. So we were just having fun. But you could tell she was having a good time. Now, here's the thing. I've had my son and my daughter shoot with me before. My rule is if you're out there shooting and you're representing my brand, you better have a good time and you better not ever sit there and look like you're bored. Because that affects my image as much as it affects theirs. But with her, she's having a good time. Having the right attitude again. So being part of the event when you can. Now there are times, like I said at the Olympics, I don't want to be part of the event. That would be a bad thing. You never shoot there again. You know, if you're shooting bobsled and you end up on the track, bad thing. It's a reflection of you, as I mentioned, and this is true of not just you, but who's shooting with you. Putting your client at ease, and this is important for anything you're shooting. Even the athletes at the Olympics, when I shoot them personally, a lot of times I will turn around during the press thing and say, like, you know, this is what I got. If I'm shooting one-on-one with them. If I'm in the press center and they've got, you know, Kobe Bryant there, I don't think he really doesn't care what I got of him, right? These guys are used to it. But if I'm just shooting a portrait of someone, always I'll turn around. At the very beginning of the shoot, I'll do 5 or 10 shots, and when I get one that I think looks really good, I'll turn around right away and just kind of warm them up. And we'll joke around, and we'll have a good time, and, you know, maybe we'll go get something to eat, so we get to know each other and have some fun. And keep in touch. By the way, this is an important piece. When you're done working with a client, the worst thing to do is never talk to them again. If someone asked me who shot my wedding 23 years ago, I couldn't even tell you. Don't remember her name. I don't remember anything about her, honestly, other than she dropped her medium format camera before our wedding and broke it and took horrible pictures. They were all 2 or 3 stops underexposed. But that's all. I don't remember who she was. So one of the things I do is I keep in touch with my clients. If it's the Jewish holidays, I have them segmented out by all the mitzvah clients. I'll send them an email saying, you know, Happy New Year, whatever. Sometimes, not too often. I don't want to drive them crazy. When I go to the Olympics, I send everybody an email saying, hey, I'm heading off the Olympics. Follow the blog. I'll be blogging every day. Once in a while, I kind of just reach out to them. And 6 months after their event, if they haven't picked their images for their album, I will ping them. It's been 6 months. Let's get going. You know, I'm still here. Or that kind of thing. Keep your name out there. Keep your brand. Talking about building rapport and having fun. This is a family I photographed not too long ago. Another mitzvah. Never put a kid up on the bima before. That was kind of fun. But I turned around later on when the boy was practicing, getting ready for his mitzvah. The 3 kids were sitting there, and they were bored, and they were just kind of looking funny. And I turned around and I said to them, do something funny. And like we were playing around, and they started doing this. You know, and it's like part of it's for the family, part of it's because it cracks me up, right? Because I want to have a good time. I don't want to be bored. And if you've shot in a particular venue over and over, you got to change it up because there's nothing worse than being bored doing this. So we had a good time. That just still makes me laugh. Okay, this is another one, and this is another important point. You got to have a good website. And it's got to be compelling, it's got to be interesting, and only show your best work. So don't put images up there that you think are okay. Okay? Now, if you're just starting out and all you have is okay, fine, but as you get new ones that are better, start taking the old ones off. Because what are you judged by, your best images or your worst images? Your worst. And I get this, I just judged a contest, there's a photographer in New Zealand, Chris McLennan, amazing photographer, I mean, probably the best I've ever seen. He asked me to judge a photo contest for him, and we went through thousands of images, and everybody submitted 5 images. There were numerous people, excuse me, where I look through their gallery, I'm like, oh, wow, ugh. And then I'm like, oh, skip. I mean, really, it's tough if you're just starting because you don't have 5 wow images, but if all you have is 5 good really good images for a wedding and 5 good images for a quinceanera, use those 5. Don't put 20 other ones, use the 5. Impress them with what you got. Really, really important. You want a fast loading website. You don't want to make someone sit there and wait. I don't recommend using a Flash-based website anymore because everything's kind of HTML5 at this point. And that means it won't be visible on an iPhone or iPad and all those things. So that's important. But your website really is, when people in the old days used to drive by a business, they'd look at the building and they'd say, oh, that must be a successful business because that's a big building and nice looking. Your website is your building. People will judge you on your website. The one thing, I just switched over to Zenfolio about 6 months ago, I think it was. I'll show you some of the screenshots. It's really easy to update, which is very important to me because if I get a new shot, like when I shot the wedding in North Carolina, I was actually putting new pages on my homepage and in my wedding portfolio as I was shooting each day. It was really cool because I used to use iWeb, which is an application that Apple had. It's no longer supported, but I had to be at my home computer to do it. So when I was doing the Olympics, I couldn't update my website for a month until I got home. I could update the blog, but not the website. Well, that's a problem. The cool thing about Zenfolio is it's all web-based, so I can go in, I can update it from anywhere. Love that. So a good website should make you look your best. This is my new website, easily branded at the top. I love the fact that I can create my own drop-downs, so I can determine under portfolios, do I have Olympics, do I have portraits, do I have wedding, whatever. I can highlight certain things. It's clean and it's easy. And the images look good, and that's important. Here's how I edit the web page. This is their Zenfolio site. Well, it's cool. I can go in, I can change everything. I can even put a metadata description. But I found most of my pages are custom pages, but they're so easy to build that I built the whole website in 3 days. Now, I fine-tuned it over another month, but it was really simple to do. This is so this is what a website design page looks like, and this is the photo page. So this is my favorites page, and on the favorites page, then links to my home page. So the images on my home page are what's here. And you can easily reorder them, which is kind of cool. So I'll determine how I want them to be. And so I intermix stuff like Olympics and bar mitzvahs and weddings and things, whatever I want to show. And you can even sell on the Zenfolio site. I really don't do too much of this, but I do have a gallery of collection. If people want to buy prints, I can do that as well. Okay, telling the story. And this is really key depending on what you want to shoot. If you're going to shoot an event, whether that's wedding, mitzvah, sports, whatever, you want to tell the story. Okay? So as we talked about before, you want to know the key moments. And that we talked about events as far as like the key moments of a wedding or a bar mitzvah, but what are the key moments in sports? Well, it depends what I'm shooting. If I'm shooting for USA water polo, like I was in London, who is the key player? Was it the goaltender? Was it the person in the 2-meter position? Was it the person who scored 4 goals? Probably. So I better have images of that person that scored 4 goals scoring a goal, right? Or I better have a good shot of the goaltender stopping a shot. That tells the story, okay? And so you want to know what those key moments are and capture those key moments in whatever you're shooting. If my daughter's going to the prom, then the key moments could be her in her dress, or her with her date, or her getting into the car, whatever. Everything has its moments, okay? And don't wear blinders. This is a big one. I see people who shoot events and they look for that key moment and nothing else. And I shot next to a guy at a bar mitzvah where he was shooting for the other family because there were 2 kids at the same time. I sat there for 2.5 hours shooting all the key moments. And he walked away. He was gone for half an hour. I'm like, where are you going? Where were you? He's, oh, the family doesn't care about any of this stuff. All they want is the passing of the Torah. And I thought, really? I mean, there were so many amazing moments that this guy never captured. Okay, fine. The family might tell you that they don't want them. Maybe they don't want them, but maybe they do, right? And as a photographer, I'd rather shoot it and have it, and they don't want it, than the reverse of that. Plus, I don't think it looks good if the family's up there looking back and all they see is the other photographer working. That's not my reputation. My unique selling proposition is I work my tail off, right? So don't wear blinders. Shoot a lot of things and look around for those unscripted moments that you didn't expect. At my wedding, I don't remember a lot about my wedding, but I remember one thing. My father had passed away 3 days before our wedding. My wife and I were up there, and the person marrying us said, you know what, you guys just need a moment together. So we started talking to each other as everybody else was silent. Well, we kissed each other, but we weren't supposed to kiss yet, right? It wasn't that point of the wedding. I remember that. Now, do I have a picture of that? I don't. The photographer didn't get that. I wish I did. I have a picture of it here, though, which is probably just as important to me. But that was the moment, right? So you gotta be ready for anything that might happen. And to be honest with you, when I'm shooting an event, my favorite thing is when something goes wrong. Not drastically wrong, but just like mom says something wrong or doesn't do the prayer right, and then the kid's like, whatever. That's the moment. And actually, I think I have a couple shots I'll show you coming up showing that. Keep alert at all times. And that's tough, and that's why you'll get spent, because you're thinking all the time. How's lighting? How's my exposure? What's next? Are they in focus? Should I be at 2.8? Should I be at 5.6? Servo focus, fixed focus. How's it, like blah, 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 blah. Over and over. And here's the thing, build your albums to tell the story. So it's one thing for me to shoot to tell a story, but you also want to have the album designed to tell a story. I'm very lucky that my wife does all my album design, and she totally gets that. And she builds a really nice album to follow that flow and tell the same story I'm trying to capture. So here's the key moment, the Winter Olympics in Vancouver for opening ceremonies. And key moment during a hockey game. This is with a fisheye lens. This tells a story right here, right? Do you think they were winning or losing? In this particular game, I think they won 13-1. And they just having a good time. And of course, as I said before, I love shooting women's hockey because they wear makeup and they just look so cute. But I didn't just shoot hockey when I shot that game. I turned around and saw that. That to me also tells a story. Hey, there's people watching the hockey game, including little kids. But I love the fact that she was decked out in that hat. It tells where I am, right? So it tells part of the story beyond just the game. So here's from London. Again, Betsy, the goaltender, was the key to them winning the gold medal. So that was an important shot. As I mentioned, unscripted moments in a mitzvah. This is pretty funny. The kid, this is the boy having his mitzvah. Well, everybody gave him, all the girls would come by and give him a kiss. And then all the guys started giving him kisses. And then the rabbi blessed him and gave him a kiss. It was hysterical. It was like one thing after another. And you could just see it. He's kind of cracking up. And I turned quickly and I saw this, which is mom, dad, and cracking up at another moment. And you can see that son's now sitting down, but I'm not just focused on just the center of the temple. I'm always looking, right? And so that's a moment. Can you script that? Can you say, hey, mom, dad, can you laugh a little for me? No way. That tells a story. This one here was, again, a recent mitzvah that I did, and the boys into magic, and surprisingly amazing at it. Like a lot of these kids will be like, oh, I do music, and they get their play, you're like, ah. This kid was great. So I set up a remote light. They stood in the right place. It was perfect. So that's my 600 EX RT mounted up in the side, flashing, lighting her up. That's the advantage of having these wireless system on a flash, because I can control one flash from the one on the camera, which is really cool. But again, this tells the story of what he did during his bar mitzvah party. The last mitzvah I just shot, I think it was this one here. This is her watching her own montage of her life for the first 13 years. This is shot at ISO 10,000 with an f1.2 lens. Most people wouldn't try it because it was so dark. But what does that mean to me? Challenge. So I'm like, I gotta get this, so I'll try it. Look at the little kid. I think it's her niece that's resting on her. I mean, it's great, right? It shows the attention and the caring of the love. It's just great.
How much noise before editing?
How much noise was there? There was a little bit of noise. The great thing in Photoshop is you can pull the luminance slider to about 18 or 20 or in that range and get rid of most. Here's the thing, who cares? Because I get caught up in the noise thing a little bit, I admit. But I'll tell you what, let's say I didn't take any noise out of this image. First of all, they're not going to enlarge this thing to the size of their house. Most of the time, this will end up in an album that's like maybe a 4x6 type size. But here's the thing, even if they wanted this as an 8x10, and let's say it's noisy, who cares most about noise? We do. I've never had a client say to me, that one's a little noisy. They don't even know what that means. So the thing is, I'm pushing the ISO 10,000 to get the shot. Yes, it might be grainy, but it beats the heck out of not getting the shot. So I'll take the noise. And honestly, even if I didn't take any noise out of it, it still would have worked for me. Now, there's other things with this image you could argue. The girl to our right, her left, is blurry because I'm shooting it at f1.2. That's okay. I'm okay with that. And the girls in the background, you can kind of see that they're watching the montage, but I don't care about them because they're not the mitzvah girl. And I'm trying to key in on them. So there's other things you can look at and say, oh, well, that out of focus. Now, granted, if it's for her family, maybe they'd be upset with it or not like it as much. But I'll take the shot. This next shot is really important to me because this is our neighbors who live about a block from us. And Jeffrey, their son, has a lot of issues and has never walked. And he's just starting to walk. I forget how old he is, 11? And he's just learning to walk. He took his first steps during our photo shoot, or just about, right before our shoot. And he's always been in this wheelchair. So we were shooting, and we were doing the shooting with them, with mom and dad holding him. And then I said to my wife, can you move the wheelchair there? And the shot, I wanted that in, and I took this two ways. Them in focus with the wheelchair soft, the wheelchair in focus with them soft. And this one here, no, they're not in focus in the background, but this tells me the story, right? He's leaving his wheelchair. And I put this on my blog, and you know what, honestly, this is one of the shots that means probably more, well, I take it back. I'd say it means more to me than the family, but the family really, really loved this shoot. It's one of those photos where people can argue lighting, they can argue subject matter, they can whatever, but I don't really care. Because to me, it's important to me and it was important to the family. And when you get that back from a family member, and we didn't charge them, by the way. Whenever I shoot stuff like this for neighbors and friends, I don't charge anybody. We do this as a favor to them. But just the reactions that I got from the family when they saw these was probably more valuable than any check could have ever been written to me. It was that good. And it's weird, as photographers, there is a selfish part where we want that pat on the back. But just seriously, they just love these. And the thing is, we forget as photographers that we can give this gift, right? Not everybody can shoot like this. And we just get to the point where we just kind of think it's just what we do. And we forget that we can give this as a gift to other people. But that doesn't mean that I don't continue to learn. And honestly, I dread the day, it would never happen, but where I could say, oh, I've done it all. I've learned every bit of the camera. I've shot everything I want to shoot. I think I'd be bored out of my mind. So I'm continually trying to push myself. I will try different techniques. I will try different lenses, which I'll show you a couple shots here in a second. I push myself always. And it's two things, to deliver better for the client, but also to kind of inspire me more, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay. So I keep myself interested. So this is the shot I mentioned before where I used 3 Canon 600 flashes. This is the bride right there, and top right. her family said so they did the rehearsal dinner and the rehearsal on Friday, but the wedding wasn't until Sunday. So we had Saturday, and they said, hey, can we do a family picture? I said, sure. Well, we're in the Smoky Mountains of North Carolina. I don't know that area. So we started driving around, and someone said, oh, there's a waterfall over there. I said, oh, cool, let's go check it out. So we went over there, and I'm like, oh, this would be really cool. But I want to slow the shutter down to get the motion of the waterfall. So I told them, be really, really still. Problem is I was ISO 50 and f22, so I can get the motion of the water, but then they were completely dark. So I used a flash, didn't work. So I had my wife, who was nice enough to run back to the car, to my camera bag, get 2 more flashes. So I was in the water with my tripod shooting, and this is on the blog, so if you want to look it up, you can see it from the wedding. And then I had one of the kids that was with us holding a flash. He was like knee deep in water, and then my wife was in the water on this side, and we got as close as we could without being in the picture, and we popped all 3 of them at +1, get some extra light just to be able to light them up. Never done any of that before, but it was fun and cool shot.
What time of day?
Right in the middle of the day. That's why it was not the best. I had good flat light, which is great, but we had to overpower a lot to get the shot. The other part that was really cool that I won't show you, because I didn't put them in here, but we asked 2 other families that were there with their kids, and I'm talking big groups, 10 people, not to play on this rock because we want to get our shot. Because they showed up right as we were setting up, and all the kids were going to run in. And we said, oh, can you just give us like 5 minutes? So what I do, I offered each one of their families a family portrait, and I showed them what we did, and I got them up there, and we got the coolest shots. One family was wearing really bright colors. It actually, in all honesty, was even better than this shot, but it wasn't the family I was shooting for. But I did email it to them. But they were thrilled. So make sure when you do this, you're not only taking care of your clients or whoever, but you maintain that passion everywhere. And when I travel, even in New York City the last couple of days, I will stop people when they're taking portraits and say, oh, like I did this in Central Park 2 days ago. We were walking in there's an area with a bunch of flowers, and I forget where the heck we were. The conservatory? Way up about 100th? I don't know. There was, yeah, there, Conservatory Garden. And there was this couple there trying to get the picture taken, and they had a friend with them with a camera, SLR, didn't know what they were doing. They have the worst possible place. So I said, oh, you know what I would do? I went over to my brothers, looking at me like, oh, here we go. And so I went over and said, you know what, why don't you put them right here, right by the flowers, go this direction so you don't have a harsh light behind them, come this way, and so I shot a couple pictures and showed them, and then set them up and helped them. Do I charge them? No. I mean, I didn't have to send them pictures because I set up there a friend to shoot them. But I mean, normally I will just do that because of passion, because I love doing it. So.
Who was that masked man?
Exactly. Oh, well, this is kind of funny. When I was shooting at that 5 Points with all that graffiti and stuff, I was getting ready to leave, and literally we got in a cab. I turned around and I saw more graffiti. I'm like, ugh. So I said to the cab driver, and my brother, can you guys wait a couple minutes? And so he sat there while I ran and did some more shooting. And I'm running back to the cab, and a guy stopped me and goes, are you Jeff Cable? And yeah, and he goes, oh, I read your blog. And I'm like, thanks. Some of the weirdest places. I was at O'Hare Airport. It's kind of cool. But again, it's cool to share that passion with other people. So here's a standard shot, at the wedding, and trying to push myself and do something different just on a whim. I thought it'd be kind of fun to try that. And what happened was I was standing there shooting this and moved over to the right, and I kind of saw that line, and then I just said to the girls, hey, can everybody kind of peek out a little bit? And we shot it. Now, I have a couple friends of mine who don't like it. They think it's kind of weird, or that I should see more of their faces or whatever. And so again, photography is subjective. Some people like it, some people won't. I like it. Same thing during the wedding, when the carriage came up. The carriage came around, and I shot it at 1,000th of a second and froze it, and it was fine. And as the carriage was coming up, I thought, oh, it'll be a really fun shot. So I kicked it down to ISO 100, f22, which is as slow as I go, and fire and panned with it, so that you see the motion in the horse's feet, motion in the wheels, but they're still in focus. And again, this is where knowing your camera and knowing your settings and knowing how to get there to get your shot can make a difference. This one here, same wedding. This was end of the night, feeling very sick after eating the crab. And I thought, I gotta do something different because I had lots of pictures of them dancing. So I took a fisheye lens, 15mm Sigma fisheye lens, and was shooting. And then I decided I do this trick where I take my camera and I have it on my tripod. I extend the legs of the tripod so it's all the way long. And I put the camera in timer mode, 2-second timer. It's got a flash on it, and you'll see my remote flash upper right there, so it's firing a remote flash. So I take it, I pre-focus out about 8 feet maybe from where I was. I pre-focus, I hit the button, 2-second timer, I lift the tripod up over him, pop, pull it back down, do it again. I'll do like, I don't know, 5 or 6 of those. And I got this shot with them dancing. Now, could I have gotten up over the crowd with a ladder? Maybe. But it'd be really weird to have a guy climbing up a ladder in the middle of the dance floor. So I tried this, it was different. Didn't know if it would come out. Very excited when I saw that. Just because it was, fun to try something new. And perfect expressions on their face. Understanding people. If you don't understand people and you want to shoot events or anybody with people in it, don't become a photographer. Because the last thing you want to do is stress people out more. And I've had this with clients where they show up 45 minutes late. If you sit there and go, you're late, we're screwed, that's not going to work. Yeah, don't worry about it. We'll get more photos later. Let's just go ahead and set up and go. So psychology is very, very important in this business. Okay? Know your client and who they are. If your client is fun-loving, like I just did family portraits for a client that I'm shooting this weekend. They wanted a portrait of their daughter for her bat mitzvah this Saturday. So I went to their house. They were goofballs. It was hard to get one photo of them with the 4 of them looking just with regular smiles. They were like doing goofy stuff, sticking their tongues out. That's who they are. And guess what? The best picture was them having fun. It was one of the daughters up on dad's shoulders, but whatever. That's who they are. So learn that. If they're very formal, you shoot more formally. If they're informal, have more fun with them. Okay? And this is really probably another important point. You're a historian, you're not a photographer. So if I'm shooting the Olympics, I'm capturing history. When I'm shooting an event for a family, I'm capturing family history. You need to know that because that's what will inspire you to do a better job when you're out there shooting. And the image I've always talked about, that I don't think I've ever shown here in the years I've talked about it, is this one. This is my mother on a cruise ship a month or 2 before she passed away. I took this at formal night on the cruise ship. My mom hated having her picture taken. And I took this, and then after she passed, this is the way I remember my mom. So, and I'm so glad I took this picture because this is the way I remember my mom, not the way I saw her at the end. And so this defines my photography. And I tell clients this all the time. And I have a lot of clients who will email me and say, so-and-so's grandfather just passed away and we're doing the funeral, but he was at that wedding or bar mitzvah. Can we have an image? And I never charge them. I always find that best image, clean it up, and get it to them right away. But it's photos like this that remind me even of what we're doing, why we're doing this. And don't lose sight of that, because that's really important. Pricing. Pricing is probably the hardest thing in business. I still grapple with it. Am I charging enough? Am I charging too much? And honestly, I don't know if I'll ever feel like I'm actually confident that I'm right at that spot. You want to build up to a reasonable amount. I mean, sure, we'd all love to start shooting $20,000 or $80,000 weddings like Dennis Reggie. I would. A couple of those a year and call it a day. But you have to build up to it. So when I started doing bar mitzvahs, I was $1,000. Now I'm $2,500, and that's without albums or anything else. So typical $5,000 or $6,000, depending. But it takes time, and you have to build that reputation to get there. So figure out what people are shooting, shoot for free just to build a portfolio if you want, and then start charging. And then once you start charging, stick to it. You have to be confident in your pricing. If your clients determine that you're not, you're in trouble. So if a client calls you up and says, how much are you? And you say, I'm $2,500. And they go, what does that get me? That's just me. Well, how many images did you get for that? Nope, that's just me to shoot for the day. And they go, really? I go, yep. Okay. And most of the time, they're like, okay, great, good to know. Right? If they go, oh, well, I was really hoping that you could do it for around $1,200. I go, well, let me give you some phone numbers for other people to call, or whatever. Or, I'm sorry, I'm not the right photographer for you. Whatever. I even had a friend of mine who I wanted to shoot her wedding, and she says, my budget is this, is the best I could do. And I said, I just can't do that. Because the problem is then everybody else is going to say, I heard you shot that for that much, and it doesn't work. So it's tough. Whenever I shoot, there's a photographer named Mike Cologne who's got a great method for pricing. And one of the things that he says is if you're going to shoot for family members, don't need discount, just do it for free. Just easier. So that's what I do. Don't discount, bad idea. Don't undercut yourself. I see this a lot. Even in our area, we have some photographer who's coming up, pretty good shooter. He's giving away all his JPEGs. So he charges $1,500 to shoot a bar mitzvah. He'll do all day long and give all his images and so on. End of story. Really? And so I called him. And I said, so I see you're doing a good job. Your photos look good. Why are you charging so little? If I were you, and he goes, well, I don't have any mentors. I don't really know what I should be charging. I said, well, here's what my recommendation is. Do what you're going to do, but you shouldn't be giving away your art, right? Because on the next slide, I think it is, I talk about your photos are your art. You're creating them. I know you're creating it of that other family or whatever, but you're the one creating them. Giving them away is leaving money on the table, and it's devaluing what you do. It makes you the guy with the camera just hitting a button, right? So don't undercut yourself. Have a list of deliverables. So have options. So when I'm shooting for a client, do you want an album, a book, a CD of edited, retouched images, which you pay for? Do you want a canvas wrap? What are you looking for? So you want to know what those are and have pricing for that. You want to have pricing for a 4x6, a 5x7, an 8x10, a 16x20, okay? And stick to those too. In the case of like the Olympics, I don't do any of those things. I just know what they want contractually. Typical event like USA Hockey wants, I'll shoot about 3,500 images. I'm contractually obligated to 5. But those 5 better be good. And those better tell a story. 5 images, that's all I want. Well, and I'll give them more. I'll generally give them 10 or more. But you're shooting 3,000 to get the key 5.
2 weeks.
2 hours. 2 hours. I'm obligated contractually within 2 hours of every game being over to go through 3,000 images, find those best 5 or 10, retouch them, resize them, and FTP them back to the US within 2 hours. Otherwise, I break contract. How about that? No pressure. Yeah. How to sell. Know business as much as you know photography. So I have a lot of people email me and say, I'm thinking about studying photography and going into that business. I'll be honest with you, and this is my opinion, and I'm sure on YouTube people will freak out because I'm saying this. I think you're almost better off learning business, going to school for business and learning how to shoot on your own than learning photography and then trying to do business. How's that for controversial? I think that there are a lot of very, very good photographers out there that couldn't run a business if their life depended on it. And guess what? So life may depend on it. So the problem is that a lot of it is marketing and selling yourself and understanding the business side. Great that you can take a good picture, but if you don't know how to sell it and price it and you give it away, you won't be able to do this for very long. So I tell people it's better to understand business and take a good photo. That doesn't mean that you can be a great business person and not know how to shoot, but I think they're equally important, and I think people tend to devalue that business side of it. My dad was a doctor, and I would argue my dad was an excellent doctor. He wasn't a great business person either. So, something to think about. Many, many good photographers fail, and I see this in the industry. I'll be honest with you, I know photographers who are much better shooters than I am, and they just don't make it. Social media. I don't even think I put that in there. Social media is really important. I mean, that's what a lot of people are using today. I mean, a lot of the families I shoot for are on Facebook. So what do? I have a Facebook presence. And I've got, right now, I think 14,000 fans on my photography page. My Jeff Cable page, for me, is just my friends and family. I have my own business page, and that's where I post all of my stuff. But social media is very, very important to make sure you embrace that. Working with local vendors. This is something that I didn't do initially that I do now. Working with vendors is really, really important because they can be great referrals for you. Whether it's the florist, the DJs, the coordinators, the bands, whatever, those guys, they get asked, and I get asked, hey, who do you recommend for a DJ? And I have my list of my top 3, and I'll give it to them. So work with those vendors. This is Mark, one of the vendors I work with quite a bit. A lot of photographers never take pictures of the DJs. That's just crazy. Because what do they want to put it? They want to put it on their Facebook page and their website, and it'll be watermarked with Jeff Cable Photography. So when someone goes and looks, what do they see? They see my brand there. And so Mark loved this shot. Another DJ, this is with a fisheye lens, or it might be a 16 to 35. No, it's 16 to 35 probably. I just told him, hey, this thing really distorts. Watch this. Put your hand out. And he did that, and bam, I got it. He loved that shot. So do most people give these guys shots like this? No. When someone asks them who do you want to work with, they say me because they know they also get good shots for their stuff to use. Right? Just good business. Florist. This was a really cheap bat mitzvah that I did. Not really. This bat mitzvah, I think they spent $160,000 on flowers. I believe they spent over $1 million on this bat mitzvah for a 13-year-old.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously. And they still have 2 more kids.
Give them whatever they want.
Yeah. But actually, the florist really wanted this, and the coordinator wanted this.
Charge 80,000?
I did not charge 80,000. I wish I had. They put up 600 people at the Four Seasons. It was a good gig. But it was fun. We had a good time. But so I did this one for the coordinators, and hope to do more with them. Plus, I wasn't allowed to show any images with the people in it because they're well known, and that's the best I could show you. Think about referrals. So we talk about the vendors. Those people are really important. They are your best ads, whether it's a referral from the family, the friends of the family. I mean, honestly, people spend a lot of money on advertising, and word of mouth has always been and will be the best ever. So one of the reasons I over-deliver when I'm shooting an event is because it goes right back into my pocket. I can tell you, I probably couldn't tell you, how many times I've been called by someone who says, I saw you work that event, and it was unbelievable, and we want you to work ours, just because they were there. Or in the case of the wedding that we just shot in North Carolina, literally 2 weeks after we came back from that wedding, the girl, the bride, her sister got engaged. Father called me up and said, we're going to do another one. We're doing it in St. Augustine, Florida, and we want you to come out here for that one. So if you work hard and you do a good job, the business will come. I'm a firm believer that that's the case, and that the people that failed just didn't try hard enough or didn't push themselves hard enough. But I think if you do it and you do it well and you do it right, the business will come. I don't advertise. I don't advertise in anything other than I'm doing my daughter's school yearbook. That's just to give money because it's the wrong demographic, trust me. And I do Google. And if you guys haven't done Google keywords, Google AdWords. It's really inexpensive if you're doing keywords like bar mitzvah and stuff, and a great way to get business. But other than that, I do 0. It's all word of mouth and website. And when a client calls me and says, we're interested in booking you for shooting our event, my first question to them is, have you seen my website? You'd be shocked how many people say, no, I just heard about you from so-and-so. You know what I'll tell them on the phone? You know what? Before we continue this discussion, you may want to look at the website first. Because I may not be the photographer for you. I want to make sure that my style meets what you want. People love having you unsell them, right? Because it builds credibility for me. It says, I'm willing to push you away if I'm not what you want. But if I am what you want, now you're going to come back to me even more sold, right? So I say, look at my website first and make sure it's what you want, okay? And use that UPS theory. United Postal Service, you know, the guys in brown, they have a theory that every client has $1 million, it used to be $1 million, now it's probably $2 million, tattooed on their forehead. And they tell all their drivers and all their employees to think of every customer with that tattooed to their forehead. Because if you take care of a customer, they're going to tell all these other people about it. But if you tick that customer off, they're also going to do the same and more. And so one of the things I do when I'm working an event is I look at everybody there as a potential client. And I've had numerous kids that were 10, 11 years old go to their mom and say, I want that guy to do mine. And you know what mom says? Huh, wow, made an impression on my kid, which is not easy to do on a young kid like that, right? And they call me up and they book me. So everybody, grandma, whatever. I mean, part of it is having a good time with them too, but just you want to think about each one of these people as a potential client. And I'll be honest with you, even when I'm at the Olympics and I'm shooting for Team USA, I go above and beyond to make an impression. So the people that are in charge of credentialing, because it's not like they have a lot of these things laying around, right? So first time I got credentialed back in, it wasn't Beijing, it was actually in Vancouver, I brought each of them a box of See's candy or something. And then in London, I brought them something else. Now, most photographers go there because they have to go because they're told by their agency they have to go. I'm lucky to go and shoot for them directly, so I make sure to thank them for that. But, you know, it's a simple box of chocolate brought across the world, but makes an impression. So I'm always thinking ahead. This, by the way, speaking of referrals, I do have a questionnaire that I send out after every event. It's an online Google Documents. It's free, so you can put online surveys or whatever you want. And one of them is a form to fill out to say, did you like what I did? What would you like to see differently? Did you think my pricing was fair? Is there any feedback you'd want to give, whatever? And then can I use it on my website? So in this case, I can go ahead and put new testimonials up on the page. Be smart about your time. This is, I think, the last slide. Be smart about your time, because the problem is people underestimate how much work there is. So they look and they say, you're going to charge $2,500 for one day? Wow, that's good money. Well, how much time did you spend pre-selling them on the phone? Probably an hour or two. How much time did you take to email them back and forth before the event? Another couple hours. Prepping your gear the night before, charging your batteries, cleaning your lenses, cleaning your cameras, driving to the event, doing the event all day, right? Typically starts around 9 in the morning, which means I have to leave early in case you get a flat tire. So you leave around 8, get there, you shoot all day, you get home at around midnight, but you don't go to sleep because you got to download and back up. Now it's 12:30, 1 in the morning. So you started at 7 or 8 in the morning, not including all the prep, and you're done at 1 in the morning. And then the next day you have to wake up and go through your 2,000 images and find the best ones, post them to a gallery, which takes another couple hours, right? So if you look at it, it's actually a long span. Don't undersell yourself. So when I called that guy in the San Francisco area where I'm from and said, hey, why are you charging this much and giving everything away? I had to actually tell him, like, look how many hours you're putting into this. He goes, oh yeah, you're right. He didn't have anybody helping him. There's nothing worse than doing all, I mean, it's hard work. And then if you're only gonna make 10 bucks an hour, forget it. So it takes a lot more than you think to do this. And trust me, there's lots of phone calls afterwards. Grandma calls, I don't use the internet. Well, can you send me a proof book? Somebody's have to build it. Okay, fine. It's $250 for a proof book. But it takes you so long to build it, order it, and send it. Like, it's a nuisance. So there's lots of things that come up afterwards that you just don't want to deal with. So don't over edit. I see this is probably the number one mistake people make. They start retouching every photo. Now, if you're a new shooter and you were underexposed by half a stop or a full stop on every picture, fix them before you put them on a gallery. Once you get good enough, you won't have to do that. You just post them. That's what I do. I post all my raw images on the gallery. I say, here are 500 images from your event. If they're a little bit dark or a little bit light, don't worry about that. They will be fixed when you order them. Enjoy. And that way, I have a little bit of a Sunday to myself. Okay? Then they're off and running. And if and I'll take like that one that you saw with the wedding couple coming through the sparklers. It looked nothing like that in its initial image. So I'll sometimes take an image, original, retouched, and show them the difference. And I put it in one file and send them before and after and say, this is what it looks, this is what retouching is. So don't worry about if it's a little bit darker, a little bit light. Here's what it looks like. You're good. And that's what I deliver. By only touching one image, or 2 images, or 3 images, a couple, not hundreds. Because time, and time is money. And don't give away your art. This is a big argument in the photography space. Do you give away your photos or don't you? And when you're starting, sometimes you may have to. Once you get good enough, I encourage people not to do that. Because again, it devalues what you're shooting. Okay. This shot, this is also from the wedding. And this is one of those ones where it was literally, and if you look at the blog, you'll see the pictures in the rain. It started raining right during her vows. Some brides would freak out. She just laughed. It was the most special moment. It was probably my favorite wedding moment ever. So it had rained, and then it stopped raining. They finished the wedding. We got a couple shots and it started raining again. So we literally, everybody go over there, hurry, by the carriage, boom, 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 and we shot it. And but again, this is where, you know, did other people shoot it with their iPhones? Yeah. Would it be as good? No. So this is my art. And when Dad called me up and said, okay, how many shots did you take over the 4-day period? I think we posted 1,600 over 4 days. I've never posted that many, ever, ever, ever. Usually it's 500. How are you gonna build an album and pick your favorite 80 or 90 images? So we're gonna have multiple albums for this family, right? So we had a lot of images, but the dad said to me, I want every one of them. And I said, well, I don't give out my images unless they're retouched, because I don't want an image that's a little bit crooked or exposed wrong, because then what does that do to my brand? Someone goes, who shot that image? Oh, Jeff Cable did. And they go, oh, yeah. So digital negatives, maybe, really small, not good enough to print, and I'll tell them I don't want these on any social media because they're not done. This doesn't represent my brand. So again, when I talked about sticking to your pricing and sticking to your philosophy, it's very, very difficult. And I do have some families that said, okay, we want to buy them from you. We promise not to put them anywhere on social media. We just want it on our own picture frame in our house, digital picture frame, or on our screensaver. Can we buy those that way? Maybe I'll make an exception for that, but nothing that would ever be seen publicly. So this is, again, if you want to look at the website, that's the website, jeffcable.com. The Facebook page is Jeff Cable Photography, and that's the blog. Like I said, I blog every week, so we can kind of, and also this goes up on the YouTube, B&H YouTube channel, so if you want to see it again, for God knows a reason. My wife always says, why did, no one's going to watch you for 2 hours, she says. But there's plenty of other videos up there. And one of them talks about workflow and how I go through 3,000 images to find those key ones. Or in the case of a wedding or bar mitzvah, how do I go through and find the best 400 or 500 out of the 2,500? So that one's up there as well.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.